okay? It have been corrupted. There's a reason for it, because not everybody is meant to be.
Might have put the wrong search in. No. American Declaration of Indigenous Peoples. This is what the American one looked like. Right? Now, when you go down through it, the General Assembly recalling the contents of resolution, and they got the name of it, Draft American Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, as well as previous resolutions on the issue. Okay, recognizing the valuable support provided by the member states, observer states, and the organs, agencies, and entities of the Organization of American States for the process in the working group to prepare the draft American Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People. So they had a whole fucking legal think tank put together to restore the indigenous people's rights. I wish they'd have said organic peoples, because that would have been more specific. But we're going to use what they gave us. Right? Recognizing also the important participation of indigenous people of the Americas in the process of preparing this declaration, and taking into account the significant contribution that the indigenous people of the Americas have made to humanity. Right? Then it goes on to say, recognizing the rights of indigenous people are both essential and of historical significance to the present and future of the Americas. The important presence in the Americas of indigenous people and their immense contributions to development, plurality, which means to have different cultures brought over here, and cultural diversity, which means to assimilate other cultures without disrupting them, and reiterating our commitment to the economic and social well-being, as well as the obligation to respect the rights and cultural identity, and that the existence of the indigenous cultures and peoples of the Americas is important to humanity. Now, that's right here. So y'all know, I'm putting on here so y'all can see it, because I'm not making this shit up as I go. This is already done. Reaffirming that indigenous people are original, diverse societies with their own identities that constitute an integral part of the Americas. Concerned that the indigenous people have suffered from historic injustices as a result of inter alia. That's invasion, for y'all don't know. I mean, aliens came in. Inter alia, that means somebody came in from somewhere else. It's just like their colonization and the dispossession of their lands, territories, and resources, thus preventing them from the exercising, in particular, their right to develop in accordance with their own needs and interests. Recognizing the urgent need to respect and promote the inherent rights of indigenous peoples, which derive from the political, economic, and social structures, and from the cultures, spiritual traditions, histories, and philosophies, especially their right to their lands, territories, and resources. Recognizing also the respect for indigenous knowledge, cultures, and traditional practice contributes to sustainable and equitable development and proper management of the environment. I'm not making this shit up. I'm going to go back to the cover because I'm going to show it to y'all again. This is the Declaration, American Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. This shit is already done. They didn't already agreed in this document to give us every fucking thing back, but we have to do something. We had to do some crazy ass shit that we ain't did since before the settlers came, and that's called unity. That insane ass shit called unity. We had to come together in agreement to execute this paperwork that they already agreed. When we execute this, we have the full support of the U.S. military to bring this shit into fruition, all we have to do is demand to free Larry Hoover. I'm going to go on. I'm going to read some more. Right? Bearing in mind the progress achieved at the international level, that means all over the world, in recognizing the rights of indigenous people, especially Convention number 169 of the International Labor Organization and the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People. That's the first one I had looked up, but that wasn't the one I was looking for. That's the global agreement of this same shit. Right? Now, convinced that the recognition of the rights of indigenous people in this declaration will foster harmonious and cooperative, that's the unity, relations among states and indigenous people based on the principles of justice, democracy, respect for human rights, non-discrimination, and good faith. Considering the importance of eliminating all forms of discrimination that may affect indigenous peoples and taking into account the responsibility of states to combat them, and encouraging states to respect and comply with, as well as effectively implement all their obligations as they apply to indigenous people under international instruments. They talking financial instruments, instruments of bill and exchange. They talking your birth certificates. In particular, those related to human rights in consultation and cooperation with the people concerned. Section 1, Indigenous People, Scope of Application. The American Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People applies to the indigenous people of the Americas, period. Part 2. Self-identification as indigenous peoples will be a fundamental criterion for determining to whom this declaration applies. States shall respect the right to such self-identification as indigenous, whether individually or collectively, in keeping with the practices and institutions of each indigenous people. That means no matter what tribe you from, you don't even have to know. If you know that you from the land, you don't have to know your tribe. They have to recognize you in your individual capacity. That means they recognize you as a sovereign individual with de jure rights. You no longer de facto. All right. Article 2. States recognize and respect the multicultural and multilingual character of indigenous people who are an integral part of their societies. They telling them right there, we are all woven into the social fabric of this American shit that didn't have nothing to do with us, and now they have to make us whole. That's what this is telling us. Article 3. Indigenous people have the right to self-determination. Do you know what that means? Self-determination. That means you got the right to, this is not a privilege, something that somebody grants you. You have a right to self-determination. By virtue of that right, they freely determine their political status and freely pursue their economic, social, and cultural development. Right? This is them giving us all our shit back, and y'all not seeing it because y'all not paying attention. Nothing in this Article 4, nothing in this declaration may be interpreted as implying for any state, people, group, or person any right to engage in any activity or to form any act contrary to the Charter of the Organization of American States or the Charter of the United Nations, or construed as authorizing or incurring any action which would dismember or impair totally or in part the territorial integrity or political unity of sovereign and independent states. The problem with that part, Article 4 becomes a point of contention because the states are de facto governments operating in the de jure capacity, which makes them in violation of the United States Code 1983, and I think it's 1985 too. But Article 5, Section 2, full effect and observation and observance of human rights. Indigenous people and individuals have the right to the full enjoyment of all human rights and fundamental freedoms as recognized in the Charter of the United Nations, the Charter of the Organization of American States, and international human rights laws. Right? Now, I'm not going to read no more, but I wanted to give y'all a taste of what this document is. This document is giving us our power back. Because now, once they enacted this, back to the cover, at the United States level, when the continuity of government goes into play, we got prime seats at the table. The continuity of government is given to FEMA. FEMA has been incompetent because they've been in training since Katrina. They didn't know what the fuck they was doing. That was us trying to figure out this disaster relief and response shit. They should have called me while I was locked the fuck up. I would have told them what to do. Period. Because George Bush don't care nothing about black people. Nor do I, because I ain't black. But that's another animal. We ain't crayons. So, from the Indigenous Rights Act of the United Nations, I'm going to go to that one. This is a different one. This is what the world agreed on in relation to the organic peoples of the planet and their ability to determine who they are and what their position on Earth is. This one starts off affirming further that all doctrines, policies, and practices based on advocating superiority of peoples or individuals on the basis of national origin or racial, religious, ethnic, or cultural differences are racist, scientifically false, legally invalid, morally condemnable, and socially unjust. Reaffirming that indigenous peoples in their exercise of their rights should be free from discrimination of any kind. Concerned that indigenous peoples have suffered from historic injustices as a result of invasion, inter alia, their colonization and dispossession of their lands, territories, and resources, thus preventing them from exercising, in particular, their right to development in accordance with their own needs and interests. Recognizing the urgent need to respect and promote the inherent rights of indigenous peoples, which derive from the political, economic, and social structures from their cultures, spiritual traditions, histories, and philosophies, especially their rights to their lands, territories, and resources, almost word for word to the United States. All right, so we're going to go down a little bit, and we're going to go into Article 1. Indigenous people have the right to full enjoyment as a collective or as an individual of all human rights and fundamental freedoms as recognized in the Charter of the United Nations, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and international human rights laws. They talking about the Hague. Indigenous people and individuals are free and equal to all other peoples and individuals and have the right to be free from any kind of discrimination in the exercise of their rights, in particular that based on their indigenous origin or identity. Article 3. Indigenous people have the right to self-determination. By virtue of that right, they freely determine their political status, freely pursue their economic and social and cultural development. Article 4. Indigenous people in exercising their right to self-determination, have the right to autonomy or self-government. They're not the same. In matters relating to their internal and local affairs, as well as ways and means for financing their autonomous function. That means they can't stop your paper chasing. They can't tax your money if you indigenous, or I would say organic, but we're going to use indigenous because that's what the paperwork say. Article 5. Indigenous people have the right to maintain and strengthen their distinct political, legal, economic, social, and cultural institutions while retaining the right to participate fully, if they so choose, in the political, economic, and social cultural life of the state. That means participating in doing business as a straw man. You got the right to be a straw man, or you got the right to be autonomous. It's your choice. This is why they running this scamdemic, because you got just as much right to take that shit as I got not to. Right? If you don't have the sensibility of your right to not to participate, then you won't get caught up in it. Right? So I wanted to give y'all a taste of that. Now, going back to the Black Panthers, after the Panthers came back from World War II, they began to organize the community. Right? This is why they were infiltrated under COINTELPRO. Right? So, while we sitting over here wondering how to recover, how to reestablish who we are on our own shit. We don't have to try to figure that shit out. They've already tapped out. They already surrendered. Right? They already said they 400 years of oppression is up according to their biblical mandate. Right? They commemorated it with at Congress. Congress commemorates 400 years. It's wait a minute. It's HR. If so, look, we came from the dirt, literally. Like we part of this planet,
Yes.
the same as the dirt.
Mm-hmm.
Got people trying to tell me to accept some shit that don't have nothing to do with being from the dirt. Right? So one of the things that we get tested with is, can you get it from the dirt? Can you take nothing and make something out of nothing? Remember, mama make $1 out of 15 cents. Right?
Yeah.
So when we look at, it's like Tupac said about his mama, even though she was strung out on drugs, she always made it happen come the holidays. Right? Because she wanted her children to have better than what she had.
Right.
So she was able to be from a position of balance. She can get it from the dirt. Right? You don't need nobody to tell you from the land, because you know how to work the land.
Right. I used to teach that when me and my father would do our school assemblies. I would always tell the students, just think about, if you came from the earth, why has it become so hard for you to live on the earth? And I used to break down how literally the human body is made out of the same elements that you find in the dirt. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Sodium, H2O, nitrogen. It's the main elements that make up the earth. It makes up your body.
And it's also stardust.
It's also stardust. Facts. And I would tell them that too. So you know what the brother is saying is real. But unfortunately, family, we have spiritual predators in the community that are preying on your energy. They are preying